Right now, if you wake up at 3 a.m., you reach for your phone. You scroll. You put on a video just to fall back asleep. But for 300,000 years, humans woke up in the middle of the night with no phone, no screen, no light at all, and they didn't panic. They just existed in the dark for an hour. Your ancestors did that every single night of their lives. You can't do it for 5 minutes. Here's the strange part. That wasn't a survival hardship they were enduring. It was, for most of human history, just what a normal night was. One long block of unconscious sleep, the thing you probably think is the natural way to rest, might actually be the newest sleeping habit humans have ever had. Start with the obvious problem. Before fire, night wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was a hard stop. No vision, no defense, predators with better night eyes than yours. The safest thing an early hominin could do after dark was disappear. Go still, go quiet. Wait for the light to come back. That changed roughly 1 million years ago. Not with the discovery of fire. Lightning had been setting things ablaze for millions of years before that. But with the discovery of keeping it. Evidence from a cave in South Africa shows something new for the time. Burnt plant matter and bone, not scattered like wildfire debris, but concentrated, contained, tended. Somebody was feeding a fire on purpose, night after night, inside a space they controlled. That single habit rewired what night could be. A fire wasn't just warmth, it was a radius. Inside it, you could see a threat coming. You could cook. You could stay awake past dark without dying for it. Night finally had a safe zone. And everything else in this story happens because that zone existed. Ask someone what ancient or pre-industrial sleep looked like, and most guess something close to what we do now. Go to bed, stay unconscious for 8 hours. Wake up. That's not what the record shows. A historian named A. Roger Ekirch spent years combing through court records, diaries, medical texts, and literature from medieval and early modern Europe. He kept running into the same two phrases, treated as completely ordinary. First sleep. Second sleep. Not poetic language. A literal expected structure to the night. People went to bed a few hours after dark, slept about 4 hours, woke up naturally, stayed up for an hour or two, then went back down until morning, and that waking hour wasn't a problem to fix. Nobody reached for a remedy. People used it to pray, to talk quietly with whoever was next to them, to tend the fire, check on animals, mend clothing by lamplight. Some accounts describe couples treating it as a favored time for sex. The first sleep supposedly took the edge off, left people more relaxed for it. Colonial records from 1500s Brazil describe an entire community eating a full meal in the middle of the night between two sleeps, like it was nothing unusual. But here's what makes this more than a historical footnote. People who wrote about that wakeful hour didn't describe grogginess. They described something closer to a quiet, suspended calm. No pressure, no agenda. Just existing in the dark for a while, the way you can't anymore because you have a phone in your hand within 10 seconds of opening your eyes. So why would sleep default to 2 blocks instead of 1? The leading explanation ties back to something simple. Darkness itself. Without artificial light stretching the day out, a winter night at higher latitudes could run 14 hours or longer. No human sleeps 14 hours straight. The body isn't built for it. What it can do is split that stretch into 2 cycles with a quiet gap in between, roughly matching sleep to the length of the dark. But that's not the whole picture. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer groups, communities still living largely without artificial light, found something messier than a clean 2-phase pattern. Some stay awake well after sunset around the fire, sleep in one continuous stretch averaging around 6.5 hours, and barely nap during the day, which suggests segmented sleep wasn't universal. It may have been shaped as much by cold, dark, high-latitude winters as by the simple absence of electric light. Equatorial nights with a fire, and short darkness produced a different rhythm entirely. Either way, fire was doing more than keeping people warm. It was extending the boundary of the usable day. And once that boundary moved, night stopped being dead time. It became a second social space, arguably one of the most important ones humans ever built. Firelight is dim, unpredictable, and doesn't reach far. That sounds like a limitation. It might have shaped human culture more than almost anything else our ancestors did. Under firelight, you can't hunt, gather, or do most daytime tasks. What you can do is sit still and talk. Anthropologists studying surviving hunter-gatherer groups have noticed something consistent. Daytime conversation skews practical. Logistics, complaints, immediate problems. Nighttime conversation around the fire skews towards something else entirely. Storytelling. Myths, histories, moral tales, accounts of the dead, explanations for where the world came from. Some researchers think this wasn't incidental. Firelight may have functioned as a forced cultural technology, a nightly, low-distraction window that pushed early humans toward exactly the kind of long-form narrative transmission that built shared belief, shared history, and eventually religion and myth as we understand them. The fire didn't just let people stay up later. It made storytelling a nightly ritual, repeated for hundreds of thousands of years, long enough to get wired into how human groups passed down meaning at all. Here's a detail most people walk past without noticing. The word curfew gets used today to mean any rule about being somewhere by a certain time. Trace it back, and it comes from Old French, couvre-feu, which translates literally to cover fire. In medieval towns, a bell rang at a set hour each night, and the signal meant exactly that. Smother your hearth. Put out your fire before you slept. It had nothing to do with controlling where people went. It was about controlling combustion. Densely packed wooden buildings, open flames, an entire sleeping town. That was a disaster waiting for one gust of wind. The rule that now governs when a teenager has to be home started as a fire safety law. For a world where the line between night and not currently on fire was thinner than you'd think. For roughly 300,000 years, night worked more or less the way it's been described here. A firelit radius of safety. A segmented sleep pattern shaped by season and latitude. Storytelling in the dark. A strange, quiet, wakeful hour in the middle of it. Then it ended. Not gradually. In a span of time that's almost nothing next to those 300,000 years. Cities began installing street lighting in the 1600s. Paris was among the first under Louis XIV, largely as a crime control measure. A lit street is a harder street to commit a crime on. London followed. For the first time, the night itself became navigable instead of something to be sealed off from. Cheaper candles pushed things further. Gaslighting in the 1800s pushed further still. Then in 1879, a single commercial product, Thomas Edison's electric light bulb, finished the job in about a generation. References to first sleep and second sleep in Western writing don't fade out slowly across centuries. They largely stop appearing after the late 1600s, concentrated first among the urban upper classes of Northern Europe who had the earliest access to artificial light. Then the pattern spreads outward as electric light became the default everywhere. The Industrial Revolution finished what street lighting started. Factory shifts don't accommodate a two-part night with a wakeful hour built into it. So sleep compressed into the single continuous block we now treat as the only normal way to rest. So somewhere in the last 300 or 400 years, a rounding error compared to the 300,000 that came before it, humans quietly abandoned a nightly rhythm they'd kept for almost the entire span of their existence. Nobody voted on it. Nobody decided it collectively. It went street by street, city by city, light by light, until the version of night that included a private, unhurried hour of nothing in the middle of it simply had nowhere left to happen. We didn't get rid of the night. We got rid of the dark. And somewhere in that trade, we lost a piece of the day nobody thought to miss because by the time it was gone, almost nobody left remembered it was ever there. Next time you wake up at 3 a.m. and your hand goes straight for the phone. That's the reflex talking. Not the person. Just try, for one night, leaving it face down.